Welcome to the Engineering, Emotions, and Energy Podcast, where you can relax, recharge, and reconnect. And now, your host, Justin Wink.
Today, I'm going to be talking about overcoming fears. I'm going to be talking about overcoming fears with my story of going from being afraid to be seen with clothes on to being naked and unafraid. So I recently went on a vacation where there's clothing optional sections. And then there's also areas where it's required to be sans clothing. That means naked is a must. They will literally not allow you in the area if you have too much clothing on. So how do I go from being somebody who is just terrified in high school to be around people with clothes on to bearing all in front of probably 100 plus people at this resort? The truth is, fears. Let's get into what's the difference between a fear and a danger, because often we confuse the two. Often we feel like we're going to die if we're going to face doing something that we're afraid of. Yet, really, most things in modern life that we fear, there is 0.0 chance of dying. Really, what we're worried about is judgment of other people or abandonment of other people. And I got news for you. Whether you do the thing or you don't do the thing, you're being judged anyway. And you're judging yourself. So why not do the thing that you want to do, and you're going to judge yourself because you ended up being brave and you being bold and you did the thing that you were afraid of, because you're going to be afraid as long as you're afraid. And once you do the thing you're afraid of and you come through the other side, you're going to realize there was never anything to be afraid of, and you don't need to be afraid of that again. So how did I get here? Because it wasn't an overnight thing. Like, the idea growing up of being naked in front of other people was just terrifying. And the only instances where this was ever actually required that I can really remember vividly is when playing football. You had to undergo a physical to be cleared to play football. And part of the physical was the dreaded hernia check, which some of you may not have had this experience, or maybe you have and you blocked it out, because I did not enjoy the hernia check experience at all. Because basically a hernia check is where they check to see if your intestines, if there's a rupture in like the lining of the intestines in your intestines, lower, upper, I don't know. I'm not that kind of a doctor. I just have a Ph.D. in electrical engineering. If there's a lining that's ruptured and it's descended down where? For the guys, I don't know. It's probably similar for the women in the area, but for the gentlemen, it's somewhere. They basically have to move your sac out of the way. That's the ball sac, the testicular sac, the scrotum, if we're going to be technical, and put a finger there and kind of push in, and then they instruct you to cough. And if you cough and you had a hernia, I guess the intestines would sort of like bulge and they'd feel that there's something there. If everything's all intact, then they really wouldn't feel anything. Often, to save time and to save money during these physicals for playing football, they would basically do a lineup of hernia checks where it's you, 3 other boys in a room with a doctor. And the doctor goes, drop trowel. So everyone's pants come down. So there's wieners to the left of me, wieners to the right, and oh shit, I gotta have my wiener out now. And then the doctor goes, all right, turn your head and cough. And he says, I said to turn your head and then cough. And that's like, oh my gosh, I forgot to turn my head. So terrifying for me, because just so much exposure, so much worry about what are people thinking about my penis. It's like, this is just it's not impressive. It's cold in this room. It's just not fun. And smash cut to, first, one of the things I love is I love hot tubs. I love hot tubs. I love hot water. I love hot springs. my body feels great in it. And then also growing up, one of the great things I would do on family trips is we would usually go to this timeshare in San Diego. It's actually Solano Beach, which is really close to the Del Mar or San Diego County Fairgrounds. Could walk to the beach from there. But the facility also had a spa and a pool. And one of the things that my dad would love to do is he'd love to go in the evenings, soak in the hot tub for hour after hour, and he would meet and he'd connect to people. And I would just love, getting to hear the stories and be part of, it's a nice community feel, being in a hot tub with other people. And then I just, love being in hot water. It's fantastic. It feels so good. It's refreshing, great for the muscles. So I'm in grad school, and part of the thing that you do when you're in graduate school, especially working towards a Ph.D. like I was, towards Ph.D. in electrical engineering, is you gotta be published. Because one of the things that is a prerequisite for getting most doctorates in most programs is to be contributing something original to the field of knowledge in your area of expertise. And so how do you prove that it's novel, that it's original, and that it's accepted and it's being added? You publish in a peer-reviewed journal or conference. And I got accepted to a very large circuits conference because that's what I specialized in, is analog and digital circuits for electrical engineering. That was my specialty, in Kyoto, Japan. So I'd technically been to Japan before, but I was 18 months old. That's a year and a half for those of you that, don't have kids, haven't had a kid, and don't do the math. I don't usually do that math, but this is how the story was told to me because I don't remember shit being a year and a half and going to Japan. But apparently my dad was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, and mom wants to go see my dad, brings me along as a year and a half old to Okinawa, Japan. So I've technically been to Japan before this trip, but consciously this was going to be my first trip and first big international trip all by myself. My advisor said he was going to go, but he wouldn't be able to go until after I'd already given my talk because he needed to go see the Police in concert. If you don't know the Police, it's a band. I think they were formed in the 80s. The biggest member, lead singer, is Sting. So, Sting, Fields of Bali, Tantric Sex, that's Sting. His real name is Gordon. I don't know what that transition must have been like for him to all of a sudden go like, I'm going by Sting now. Like, yeah, Gordon, whatever. It's like, no, it's Sting. I can't remember which comedian I heard that from. But anyway, seeing Police in concert for a second time, he'd already seen them. So I guess it must have been good. So he couldn't make it. So I'm basically doing this trip totally alone, nobody with me. And at that time, it was a very, very eye-opening experience in many ways because basically when I'm here in the US as a white male, I can be pretty invisible if I want to be. Nobody notices me. If I don't talk to anybody, no one really talks to me unless somebody wants to sell me something. That's about the only time anyone bothers me. Going to Japan, I suddenly am at that time a little bit of a star, and people actually come up to me, and especially if I look confused, they'll go, "Sir, do you want some help? Do you need some directions?" Or sometimes they'd come up to me and go, "Oh, are you an American? Can I practice my English? Can we get our picture with you?" Because there's just at that time not a lot of blue-eyed white dudes walking around, and so they figured they could practice their English. And so it was very, very different experience for me having the attention on me. Remember, this is the kid that did not want to be seen with clothes on anywhere, and so I would go and hide out in high school, like behind racquetball courts, so that I could have a barrier between me and other kids. I had a little small group of friends that I felt safe, but strangers, no thank you. One of the things after the conference was done, one of the things I had read about was that there was something called an onsen. Onsen is a Japanese bathhouse. And so not far from Kyoto is this town called Dogu, which has a very, very old and famous onsen. And I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to go experience what it is to go to like a bathhouse, because it's described as like you have like these pools, then you have tubs of different heat, and you have saunas and steam rooms. And I'm like, all right, I gotta do this. Except you have to be naked in the bathhouse. It's a requirement because you're there to be clean and be soothed and sort of cleansed by these clean, pure waters. And clothing brings a lot of dirt, a lot of grime, a lot of detergents and other stuff that's going to sully the waters. So something to consider, different view on things, that our clothes can be thought of as kind of like dirty, nasty, gross. It's like, well, that's a different perspective. And I was like, oh my gosh, do I really have to take all my clothes off and be naked and then see other naked people? But I really wanted to experience what it was like to be in an onsen. So the price to pay, in addition to the $23.50 equivalent, I don't remember what it was in yen, was that I had to face my fear of being naked in front of other people. And in this case, it's only men, because these were gender segregated. So there's a women's section and a men's section. So only had to deal with other men. And it was, like a little terrifying at first, like, oh my gosh, I'm actually doing this. Am I doing the right thing? Is somebody going to come and say, like, you're doing it wrong? When there's fear, it puts our state of mind into an irrational state, which is why a lot of times pay attention very closely to what you're watching on TV, what you're reading, what you're listening to in the news. If you end up being afraid, you're likely not able to think clearly, and then you're much more open to something that may or may not serve you. Because at that point, I was in such a state of agitation and fear that if someone had said, like, hey, you're taking your clothes off wrong, you're going to need to put on a silly hat, I would have put on a silly hat or done probably just about anything to feel like I was doing whatever it was to be right. Even though we come to this world naked, we leave naked, so there really can't be much wrong with it, other than there's laws in most places. And it's interesting, when you're naked and other people are naked, a lot of stuff goes away because there's nothing really to be able to tell someone's status necessarily. Because a lot of times we're able to tell our status by clothing, like, well, what brand is that? Like, is that watch or that jewelry, is that silver? Is that gold? Is that platinum? So that we can see who's less than, more than, whatever. Whereas when it's just all skin, we're pretty much all very equal. And it really just becomes, how you interact, how you are, how you carry yourself. And then there's so much less to worry about, because I don't know about you, but usually if I'm in a pool or spa and I get out and I've got my swim trunks, I have to like adjust stuff because it's like sticking to my thigh and I need to pull that up, or maybe they're sagging too low. Whereas there's nothing on, there's nothing to adjust. It's just get up, go to the next pool, to the next hot tub. So that was the first experience. And since then, it's, over many, many years, because I was in grad school and about 20 years ago, opportunities of like, hey, there's this great hot springs. You want to come to the hot springs, but it's, clothing optional, or it's, clothing not allowed. Because again, clothing can be kind of dirty. And the other thing that I found out for me to be kind of cool is that often these places where there's no clothing allowed or less clothing, there's also no children. And as someone who does not have children, look, I have some friends that have phenomenal children. I love it, but not everybody's children are great to be around with. If you don't agree with that statement, it's probably your kids that are not fun to be around and you are oblivious. So please keep your kids probably away from other people until you educate them on how to be in adult company. But even the ones I do enjoy company with, I like an opportunity to kid-free, just to be around other adults and have adult conversation with whatever that might be. Because so often, if there's the possibility of children being around, ends up being this tiptoeing of, well, we got to avoid this topic, we got to avoid that topic, we can't say that word, because what if the fucking kids heard? Like, oh my gosh, somebody would lose their shit. There's a reason I'd allow this to be an explicit podcast, so I can say words like that. Not that the swearing is, sometimes it accentuates a point, and sometimes it's just for fun. Yet, really, this podcast, it's not adult because of the language, specific word choices. It's adult because these are things that, adults are working with, and mature, younger people can also handle this. And if they can handle the topics of how to get over your fears, they could probably handle motherfucking, swear word here and there too. So Fear of what language is used, that's another fear. So what fears are holding you back from what you want? Because often between whatever it is you want and where you are, there's a fear holding you back. And it's a fear, not a danger. And that fear is often a fear. I almost guarantee it's 100% a fear of being judged or being ridiculed, because there's a very low chance that you will come to physical harm. Now, yes, there might be some things that can cause, physical harm. So use your common sense. Like if you're afraid to go to a very large human and say, your mother's a bitch, that's probably just wise to, not a good idea. And then how's that going to benefit you and that human anyway? So chances are, if it's going to be of benefit to you and those around you, and there's a fear, it's probably something to lean into. Now, there's all how you do it, this like just power through, or, maybe take substances or other things. That doesn't work. Doesn't work. It just, maybe you can do the thing, but you didn't really do the thing, and you still kind of know that you need help. So when you really truly face the fear, just no substances, you're going to feel so great. You're going to feel so free. You're going to feel phenomenal. And I want you to feel that way. So what I'd love is if, any of this is resonating, where, like, again, maybe you're not as into hot tubs or, the aquatic life as I am. And so there's never going to be any need for you to get naked in front of other humans. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you, what is it where you feel like it's as terrifying as getting naked? Because for a lot of people, that's public speaking. And that is something that actually there's a lot of things where you have to speak in front of other people if you want to get your message out, because you probably have some important things to say or do or communicate in your life. And you're just going to have to find a way to do it. Now, there's ways to that, like with my going from scared to be seen totally clothed to 100% naked and unafraid. Like, if it's not against the rules or against the law, like I'll drop trout just about anywhere nowadays. I don't, it's no big deal. It's actually, what's interesting is, because some places are clothing optional. And so some people will be like wearing a swimsuit or they're wearing clothing, and they end up being the ones that seem weird. It's like, what are they hiding? Like, so it flips it on its head, where usually you think like, well, you're going to be judged if you don't have clothes on. There can end up being more judgment if there's clothes on, because really humans, we are judging nonstop. It's part of our survival mechanism, but it's do you allow those judgments to rule your life, or do you rule your life and you decide what you want to do and go through that fear so that you can get what you want? Because I don't know about you, but I love getting what I want, and I love when other people get what they want. It's so awesome. It's actually even more fun to see other people getting what they want, to see them light up, to see them get so excited, and to be in love with life. Thank you for joining the show. Do reach out. How to contact me is coming up. And until then, have a good day. If you want to contact the show, email me at podcast@justinwink.com. That's Justin, W-E-N-C-K. And find me on social media, Justin Wink, Ph.D. on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. And if you want ways so that you can relax, recharge, and reconnect, find the Tuesday 20 every Tuesday at 12:05 p.m. Pacific. It's only 20 minutes, and it's going to get you relaxed, recharged, and reconnected. It's on YouTube, and it's on Facebook. So looking forward to seeing you there.